First, thank you to Tri-State for inviting me to be here, but I had the privilege last night with Chuck Schultz of taking a little tour of the region with Tom Oakley, and I just can't say enough about the opportunity to meet Tom and what a champion he is for all of the work that I know all of you are doing in this state, so and in Missouri and in Iowa, so this effort with Tri-State. So I'd just like to give a round of applause to Tom, because he's just great. My name is Nikki Budzinski. I'm the Senior Advisor for Governor Pritzker, and I do want to extend his greetings to all of you and all of the great work that you're doing. And just to give an update on the state of Illinois, we have been very hard. We've been in office for less than a year, working really hard to put the state back on track. And we had probably one of the most successful legislative sessions on a bipartisan basis last year. And I wanted to kind of share with you some of those highlights and then spend a lot of time specifically on an economic development plan that we just released this month. It's a 5-year economic development plan that I think will benefit this region, but then also our capital bill, Rebuild Illinois. But some of the other significant accomplishments that the governor was able to do in partnership with the legislature was a bipartisan balanced budget, which is incredibly important when you're talking about fiscal solvency and getting this state back on track that has really struggled with some significant financial challenges. We did pass the supermajority vote to have a fair tax amendment. We are working toward overhauling our income tax system on the ballot, which we believe will help us generate about $3 billion and help the state put it, if it passes, toward a longer-term fiscal solvency, again, getting our financial house in order. We also, in this last legislative session, passed 2 really important revenue and job generators when we passed a massive gaming expansion bill, which was significant, and we also legalized cannabis, which we believe is going to create jobs and also bring needed revenue into the state. But as I started my remarks, probably one of the most significant, and I think Tom would agree with this, was the passage of Rebuild Illinois. And I want to thank Secretary LaHood and also Tom for coming to Springfield and lobbying legislators. This was a bipartisan $45 billion capital plan, the largest. I said billion, yes, I said billion. And it was done on a bipartisan basis, which I think is so critically important and something that we need a lot more of in the state and actually just all across this country. But the largest capital plan, and on Monday of just this week, we rolled out $23.5 billion in a multi-year plan, a portion of that $45 billion overall capital plan. So we're very excited about what this is going to mean, not just for the region, for economic development, but for jobs. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the specific investments that this Rebuild Illinois initiative is going to invest in this area in particular. But before I do that, I wanted to go back to the idea that I initially started with, which is we rolled out this month a 5-year economic development plan. And these 2 things really go hand in hand. The focus of our 5-year economic development plan, which is going to be run out of our Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, is going to be focused on improving citizen customer service with the state of Illinois. We're also going to be focused in our economic development plan on workforce training opportunities, training for in-demand careers for the new economy, but we've also included an increase in MAP grant funding in the state of Illinois by $200 million. Our economic development plan is also going to be focused on 6 key industries in the state of Illinois. Many of those are touching, obviously, Western Illinois in this region. The first is on agribusiness and ag tech, and I know on your agenda you're going to have an opportunity to hear from our wonderful Secretary of Agriculture, John Sullivan. A second industry that our economic development plan focuses on is energy. A third, information technology. A fourth, life sciences and healthcare. 5th, manufacturing. And then 6th, of course, transportation and logistics. Those are the key foundational industries that our economic development plan over these next 5 years are really going to take a deeper dive into in Illinois. But beyond just those six industries, we also have very significant initiatives within our economic development plan that I also want to mention. Broadband. Within our $45 billion capital plan, there's $420 million set aside for broadband expansion in the state of Illinois. And I know you have a panel later today to talk about what that investment means for small businesses and economic development. But I want to give a shout out to Senator Jill Tracy, who is kind enough to sit on the Broadband Advisory Council, which is going to be putting together the strategic plan for investment of that landmark $420 million that is made possible by our capital bill on a broadband initiative. Two other initiatives that are within our economic development plan. We're going to be building labs near universities to focus on clean energy technology. A third initiative will be providing startups access to state's tax credit for research development, which is also very exciting. We are going to be measuring our progress, which I think is really important to any plan, having metrics and having accountability to the goals that we are setting forth. There are three fundamental aspirations within our economic development plan. The first is to lay a foundation for long-term economic growth. And within that long-term economic growth, what the state of Illinois is going to be measuring our state's investment against national trends in the following areas: exports, foreign direct investment, entrepreneurship, patents, worker productivity, and R&D spending. A second fundamental aspiration that this economic development plan is going to address is reducing the equity gap. And there are several demographics that we will be tracking our progress with. And that's women, rural residents, people of color, people with disabilities, veterans, justice impact populations, and immigrant populations. And then last, I'd like to focus on the third kind of foundational aspiration that we have for our economic development plan in Illinois, which is attracting more workers and business into the state. And so we're going to be tracking our progress against net domestic and international migration, but also job creation and retention for the state of Illinois. So we have a very ambitious economic development plan, which quite frankly is only made possible again by our Rebuild Illinois Capital Fund and Capital Plan, which again was bipartisan. It included both horizontal and vertical important infrastructure projects. And I wanted to take a moment to highlight within this region for the Tri-State Summit some of the more important, I think, specific projects that we rolled out just this past Monday that we'll be investing in this region that we feel confident is going to make a difference. $50 million to I-34. We're also going to be investing $300 million in a new bridge just north of I-80 in the Quad Cities. We just had a meeting, IDOT had a meeting on our ports. There's $150 million invested in statewide port infrastructure and building, and we know that the city of Quincy is particularly interested in funds that will be coming out of that rebuild plan that can be taken advantage of. That was an amen. And then also Chuck mentioned the Quincy Veterans Home, obviously $230 million of critical funding to make sure that that home is a good place, is a right place in honoring our veterans. We're also investing, though, in education, which is another key component, as I mentioned, of our economic development plan. Across the board, the governor is going to be increasing our investment in places of higher education by 5%. But universities are also going to benefit from specific projects. Western Illinois University in Macomb is going to get a new $94 million science building, which is something that they've been working toward for a very long time. The Macomb Career Technical Education Center is going to receive a renovation. And then in addition, the Macomb Career and Technical Education Center is going to get a new nursing building. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that IDOT is going to be expediting a study on the I-57 4-lane that I know Tom is very, very passionate about. So we are going to continue to be moving forward, and these are just some of the projects that we're really pushing, and we've worked collaboratively in this last legislative session to really change the trajectory of the state of Illinois, making it more business friendly, bringing in jobs, creating economic opportunity for small businesses. That's what I know Governor Pritzker believes in, and I want to just say a big shout out and a thank you to Tri-State for all of the work you're doing, because it's with your partnership that we're going to be able to make these projects possible and get them implemented. So thank you so much for this opportunity to be with you today. I appreciate it.